the optimistic Ohio State fans are not looking at the reality of the situation right now, but hearkening back to 2014, of course, and it all worked out well after a very disheartening loss to Virginia Tech by 2 touchdowns, in which J.T. Barrett in what could have been a drive to tie the game through a pick six that ended the whole thing. It's just me, Tim, 79. Yeah, just win out, run the table, beat Iowa 59-0.
Well,
there it is.
The Big Ten is not a very good league. So, I mean, Ohio State can't play with the level of defense it has right now. But what percentage improvement does Ohio State have to make based on the offense that it has to win this conference? 20%? 25%? I mean, everybody's going to say 400%, 10,000%. I mean, I get it, but I really, I don't think, and okay, say what you will, I'm being a homer on this or whatever. I don't think the league is all that good. And Ohio State doesn't play Iowa or Wisconsin in the regular season and wouldn't have to face one or the other until the, Big Ten championship game, provided Ohio State would make it that far. We don't know what's going to happen. It's a long season. A lot can happen. Maybe these changes, maybe Matt Barnes calls the defense. Maybe, they make some other adjustments. Maybe, they do get Taraja and Cody Simon out there. They get a healthy Court Williams. A lot of things are there. But, I don't think it's out of the realm of impossibility that Ohio State, over these next 4 games that are not proving to be world beaters. Let's remember, Oregon, despite being a 14-point dog, or 14.5, was still a top 15 team nationally. Tulsa, Akron, Maryland, and Rutgers are not a top 15 team. Most of them aren't top 50. So Ohio State's going to have a month plus an open week to be able to try and sort some things out. Now, do I think Ohio State's going to finish the season 11-1? We don't see some wholesale changes on defense? No. But, we certainly were ready to write off the 14 season at that point after the Virginia Tech loss. Everybody was, the Big Ten's college football playoff hopes were declared dead, dead on the table at that point. So, let's let it ride and see what happens. But, I like this a little bit more of a positive, hopeful topic than talking about just the dregs of where the defense is at right now.
Kevin, I'll give you real quick. I'll give you a little story from my own personal experience at ESPN. The day after the Virginia Tech game, that being the first year of the college football playoff, of course, and all hands on deck at ESPN, I actually went to my boss the next day and said, I need off the college football playoff semifinal day. I need that. And he said, what do you need it off? You're an Ohio State fan. I said, I'm laying down a gauntlet of faith here. I need that night off. So I saw it way back at rank number 22 in the country.
Exactly. And the thing is, you don't need the best defense in the nation to win a national title. You need one of the best offenses and a good enough defense. You're going to have to score 40 points to win a national title. So that means holding somebody else to 35 or 41. And Ohio State should have that capability. They should have that ability on defense to hold somebody to just 6 touchdowns. That's all. Just 5 or 6 touchdowns and score 6 or 7, which they should be able to. And so, yeah, I'm not ready to write them off either, because I still laugh at the people who did it in 2014 when the tweets went out like, the Big Ten is done after week 2. The Big Ten is out of the playoff picture. And that came back to haunt a lot of people. So I'm certainly not going to write the Buckeyes off right now, especially when, if Iowa continues to run the table, they're going to be a top 5 team. If Ohio State meets them in the Big Ten championship game, and they won't need to beat them 59-0. They can beat them 9-5, and they're going to get some benefit of that. But also, they're going to need Oregon to maybe look bad at some point this season in a game. I think they can pass Oregon with 1 loss, but it's going to have to be a bad loss.
They're not going to get the tiebreaker. Oregon missing Kayvon Thibodeau, Justin Flo, and everybody else, going to Ohio State, winning a game that was a 1-score game, but had the look of more than 1 score. You don't think that's an automatic tiebreaker for Oregon?
I think it depends on the loss. We saw Ohio State have a bad loss in 2018 that cost them. If it's a 49-0 to Stanford or something like that, like, yeah.
Yeah, you
We
lose,
Now-
might as well blow up the
Oregon
system.
State in a bad game. You see ya.
But it's head to head.
They don't the committee
Doesn't
chooses to
care.
use what they want to use, and they'll put the team they want in
This
there.
is true.
And if they prefer Ohio State over Oregon, then, well, that was a long time ago, and Oregon had a bad loss. Ohio State's best loss was the number 12 team in the nation at that time. So,
And momentum, and if Oregon
Mhm.
loses in week 7 or week 8, and Ohio State lost in week 2, and you look at where the rankings are set up, and again in Grapevine, they're just going to do whatever the hell they want to do anyway. So I mean, we can sit there and look at all these metrics that should make sense, but it really doesn't matter. And don't think for a second that the 4-letter network isn't going to get in and say, well, Ohio State turns on TVs and a Pac-12 team does not. I mean, Ohio State's going to have that tiebreaker every single time.
Mark, we're on these calls every week with the college football playoff committee after like week 8 or whatever, and they change their logic within the call, within the week, depending on the team. They double back. They contradict themselves all the time. So it's whatever they want, as opposed within reason. Like, they're not going to put in a 2-loss team over an undefeated team. But if everybody's in a bowl of chili, they're going to pick out which ones they want, and they're going to leave everybody else home.
Steve, you've always got something to say about this subject.
Yeah, I think if they both have one loss, I think Oregon would get the nod. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. But there's so much football to be played, and I mean, my assumption today, if you said pick out who's going to be in the playoff, and let's assume Alabama beats Florida this week, which is kind of the first domino going forward. That's like the next big game on the schedule. Let's just assume they go into the swamp and they beat them, which they very well, maybe they won't. I don't know. But let's just say, and let's just assume Georgia wins the East. The Alabama-Georgia winner from the SEC championship would be in. The Alabama-Georgia loser with one loss would probably be in. Oklahoma, if they're undefeated, is in. Now, that's a big if. Oklahoma with one loss, probably still in, as long as they win the Big 12 championship game. And from there, it's kind of murky. It could be the ACC champion, which we figure will be a one-loss Clemson team. It could be the Big 10 champion, which could be an unbeaten Iowa, or one-loss Ohio State team, or a unbeaten or one-loss Penn State team.
Or Michigan.
No, it's definitely not going to be Michigan. And then or it could be an undefeated or one-loss Oregon out of the Pac-12. I mean, I don't know. Maybe UCLA sneaks in, wins that league somehow. But you follow what I'm saying. There's just so many scenarios and so much football out there that need to be played. But Alabama and Georgia, to me, have put themselves on a pedestal so far after 2 weeks to say, yeah, I know the genuine article when I see it. If Georgia could just score a few more points, I'd like them a little better. I guess Alabama has put themselves way out in front of everybody just with what they did against Miami. But, are they going to do that? Going to play that type of football week in and week out throughout the SEC? We're going to find that out beginning this week against Florida, which, we'll see if they can go on the road to the Swamp, a place where they haven't played in, I think it's 10 years because of great SEC scheduling. We'll see how they handle it. But is Ohio State out of the playoff hunt? No, not by any means. But as Kevin said, I need to see a ton of improvement, or they're not even going to win the Big Ten. So, you start losing games in your own division to Penn State, to Michigan, to Indiana potentially, and I think all three of those games are now on the line, so to speak. Could go either way based off what I saw this past week. You lose a game in your division, you open yourself up to not win your division. So they doinked one off to Iowa, doinked one off to Purdue, but then they ran the table the rest of the way in the Big Ten. You win the division. because you got the tiebreaker over everybody. You beat them head to head, but you open yourself up. And again, if something like that were to happen, you'd have 2 losses and the playoffs completely out of the realm, even if you end up 11-2. So to me, playoffs, Jim Mora. I mean, they got bigger issues than playoffs. It's solve the problem on defense, or you're not going to win out.
That they do. Yakov, along those lines, some are meant to excel only as positional coaches.
100%.
Hi, Sue. What do you guys think?
And along those lines,
Yep.
In Kerry Combs' benefit, when he left Ohio State, the recruiting in the secondary kind of went with him. And when they lost Bill Davis, not that he was a great linebacker coach or anything, the recruiting in the linebacker group wasn't very good in his stead. So now it's all coming home to roost. You don't have any good young defensive backs in the pipeline other than the guys Kerry Combs brought in this past year, like Denzel Burke and J.K. Johnson, who was a national top 50 guy. And from the linebackers, you don't have any veterans that are playmakers, that are difference makers, because Bill Davis didn't recruit anybody. So the best 2 linebackers connected to Ohio State are high school seniors right now. The Powers kid at Marysville and C.J. Hicks down at Kettering Alter. Those are the 2 best linebackers in the Ohio State program, and they're high school seniors. So that's a distinct issue. That's a problem. And to not have anybody in the secondary, with Josh Proctor out now, he was a national top 50 guy, I believe, coming out of Oklahoma. That's a major hit. You don't have, Malik Hooker is not walking through that door. Jeffrey Okuda is not walking through that door, to use the old Rick Pitino line when he was coaching the moribund Boston Celtics there, post, Bird, McHale, Parrish, etc. Those mainstay guys that are the best in the league are not walking through that door. So you're going to have to make do with what you got. And so it is a talent issue in one regard. To my way of thinking, the recruiting in those 2 areas has really suffered the last 3 to 5 years. And I looked at it since Ryan Day took over, and let's say the 2019 class was his first true class. They've signed 17 national top 100 guys on offense and only 8 or 9 on defense. Now, I think if you looked at those same rankings, you'd probably find, I didn't count them up, that most years 60% of the top 100 guys are probably on offense, just because everybody loves the quarterbacks, wide receivers, etc., all big-time offensive linemen. So maybe it skews a little more toward offense. But what Ryan Day, who's an offensive-minded head coach, it's hitting him right between the eyes, is we got to get back to getting top 50 guys on defense too. And to their credit, they did get 2 this past year with JT Tuimoloau, who looks like he could help the bottom line this year. Jack Sawyer needs a little bit more lead in his pencil, getting swallowed up by big time. He never played against a 315-pound offensive tackle at Pick North, and he didn't play at Pick North last year. So, he's got 2 issues: knocking the rust off, and at 250 pounds trying to go up against guys he's given up 50, 60 pounds to. He's having a hard time with that. So that's not a knock on him. I think, Joey Bosa wasn't Joey Bosa his first day on the job. It took him 6-8 games to really get it. And, I think that's fair for Jack as well.
Jeffrey Okuda, unfortunately, not walking anywhere these days.
He's not walking
he just
through any
ruptured
door.
an Achilles.